Welcome back, everyone. Wanted to take this opportunity, since I have these two rifles out, identical rifles, even though they may not look like it at this point. I'll explain that. Of course, the Krag Jorgensen in 30-40, the United States' caliber, and they're choosing for military service for a very short time. They did not pan out well for the Americans, as Teddy Roosevelt found out, recommended they change them in his doings in charge of San Juan Hill. Got outclassed by the Mauser system, and to go on, of course, they went on to the 1903 Springfield shortly after that. This was kind of the intern gun between the trapdoor and the 1903, and we'll take a closer look at both of these. You know, the reason I say they're the same, you know, one is a carbine and one is a rifle, but these two were actually about 4,000 apart in serial number and identically came off the assembly line, so to speak, in the exact same configuration. But I'm using these two as an example of how to collect a more expensive firearm and get it more reasonably if you just want to have one in your collection, and especially when it comes to the Krag in carbine configuration, of which this is. If any of you guys are experts at it, can probably see right away it's not an original carbine. Number one, the serial numbers are very important in determining if it's a true carbine or not, and this one is completely wrong serial number. These are 1898 Krags, and if we take a look at this carbine, we'll go over it first because these can be had very inexpensively. I'll kind of move in close here. Let me flip my camera around. And if the person is being honest, you can probably pick one up for just a few $100s, you know, $300-ish maybe, for a fairly nice, shootable Krag that is fun to use. Shoots the original cartridge, shoots it well. Now, some of the things that are going to be different from this one, from the one that's behind me, right off the bat, the first telltale sign's got a 1903 type front sight added on. The original one would have been actually right on the barrel, and I'll show you that, dovetailed right onto it. There's some other variations too. You can see the stocks are channeled underneath the barrel, and that channel had to be filled in. Now, don't take all of these as being inexpensive as being incorrect, because some of these guns were actually done by the armory in order to keep the armorers busy in the intern between wars. And this could be very well one of those guns referred to as the NRA guns. This is a very well done carbine. Of course, the Krag's claim to fame is its interesting loading system on the side, where you just drop your rounds right in there, and then they self-feed. No stripper clips, of course, and that's what the downfall of them was the Mausers did take stripper clips, allowed for quite a bit faster reloading on them. They do have a magazine cutoff on the side. These change from year to year as to if the up position or the down position was the cutoff. You can see there's a cartouche on this. I cannot make out the date on it, unfortunately, but I have determined that the date of both of these comes from 1900. There are some other interesting tidbits that identify this, as such as the sights on it are rifle sights. The carbine sights would actually have a C stamped right into them and be appropriate for shooting the cartridge with the shorter barrel at the appropriate ranges. Of course, it's the Bannerman type style sight, correct for this year. You can find so many variations. You really got to study. There are many sight variations on these. This one does retain all original features, however, such as even the original cleaning rod was in it. And I don't think I can get that open without bending my fingernail back. But there are 3 rods in individual holes in the stock, and underneath the rods the oiler lays in a little channel grooved out. Very nice system for the time. So let me switch back to the original rifle and we'll show you. Now I've got the bayonet attached on this rifle. The study of the Krag bayonets is also extremely fascinating. In appearance, it's actually a Swiss bayonet, and it will fit on the Garand, the Garand if you prefer. I hate to offend anybody. Let me pop this bayonet off and we'll take a closer look at it real quick. The bayonets are actually an easier study than the rifles. I'll show you some of the markings on the bayonet itself if we can get our camera to focus up here. In 1902, the build date. Fairly nice example. You can see the later ones were rough cut on the grips, much as some of the later bayonets designed strictly for the Garand. Many variations on the sheaths also. This is the correct sheath for this year. These were designed to fit on a cartridge belt with this spring-loaded apparatus fitting on the cartridge belt. Let me slip this into place. You can see these just pop out, maybe, and then fit over the cartridge belt. And they'd slip right over. This one in particular goes around a single round that was held in the cartridge belt. They also got, the later ones would be wider, and then there were different types, different ways they were attached so that they would swing all the way, some wouldn't. There were bolo blades made. Some are very rare and tremendously expensive. None of them are inexpensive, even this type of standard Krag bayonet. But let's get back to the rifle itself. We'll go back to the front sight. If you remember that other banded front sight, here's the type that is installed directly on the barrel. That's the correct style. Of course, the stacking lug is present on this one. On the shortened one, it is not present because it's been cut back, clear back to the front band. And from here back, the 2 rifles are identical. The finish on this one is not quite as good. In fact, I wish the other one was still in its original configuration. There you see the interesting post 269 with probably a rack number of 7 on it, and then some other interesting initials and numbers and of some sort that I haven't yet to identify what those are. I'll flip this rifle over. This one has a very good cartouche that we can read the date on. It was 1900, and of course the original proof mark is in existence also. And you can see this has a much darker stock on it. We'll back up a little and give you a little better view. These are reproduction slings. course, this entire front band is missing on the other firearm. And then of course from here back, identical in operation. Actually a very easy system to take down. It's unusual in its method of taking the bolt out. There are other videos that will show you how to do that with using the extractor to actually pull it out. It does have the little notch to hold the bolt open. So we can see right here, that little notch that uses this extractor to hold the bolt open. If you desire, cutoff is in the same position. It's recockable. You need a second strike on it. See Toby running around in the background. He's helping me out today. Same sights. These, well, actually different sights on this rifle. This would have been the original sights. The other ones were later. Even these did not escape modification. These sights originally would have had 3 notches in them across the back for windage. In a certain sustained wind at a certain distance, you can still see slightly that the 3 slots do exist, with the center one being primary. And these were filed out because they were found to be confusing, and on this rifle they did get filed out. If you find a complete one, it will have those 3 notches still evident in it. Common modification done to these rifles, however. As I was saying, not difficult to take down, but it is a little bit different in the way you remove the bolt by using the extractor to actually lift it up out and then twisting it and letting the bolt fall out in that manner. Only one spring. This is really a less complicated mechanism than you would think. As you can close it, you can see how the moving parts down inside there, but actually it's quite simple. There's just one simple spring inside here that actuates the cartridge feeder and operates the door to holding it latched closed. When you do take these down, care is needed so you do not bend. This is the end of the pin here, the business end of it. It runs all the way through, and you have to put a clamp upon these and hold it closed right here on the side plate. These do have a side plate, interestingly enough, and the only reason that side plate is there, other than maybe cleaning, is you can get inside here and remove the extractor, which is right here. Now this extractor, you can see how it works, or rather ejector, I should say. With the extractor being on top, that's the ejector. And there's a small pin underneath this plate that holds it in place. You just simply lift that pin out, and then that ejector will fall right out of place. No springs, no nothing like that. Just the bolt simply riding over the rear of it causes it to pop up. Very easy to get out and clean underneath there. So long as you can get that screw out, be careful and go back and watch my video on the correct screwdrivers to use. Otherwise, this is a good place you could mess these up. Sometimes these side plates can be very, very difficult to get off if it's an older firearm that hasn't been apart in some time. And then, as I said, you put a clamp over these, and then you can just lift up on this lever here. Sorry about my orange finger. A little bit of Citra strip got underneath my fingernail and stained my fingernail permanently till it grows out anyway. So anyway, this is lifted up with the clamp in place, then it can be gently removed. If that clamp is not in place, you're probably, because of the stoutness of this spring, you're going to damage this rod. Be very careful with that. Once you get it out though, it falls apart. Put it back together, you put everything in place, put your clamp. I just use a C-clamp with a rag over it. pull it back into place, reinsert your rod, and then snap it down into place. Pretty simple procedure. The parts was very evident how they go together, and what a unique and ingenious solution of how to work them. Fantastic. So anyway, this rifle is going to cost you probably 3 times as much as that carbine behind me. Now if that carbine was a true carbine, it would cost at least 2 or 3 times more than the rifle would cost you, simply because of their rarity and difficult to find an authentic, complete carbine. So also missing, of course, on the carbine is a front spring. There would be a band spring in the stock holding this on. The stock would probably be just a hair longer to accommodate that, but no problems. Here's that later style sight, windage adjustable with this simple kind of nut on it, but this is a later style sight. Not unusual to see the sights changed out on them. Whereas this rifle with its original sights, if you're familiar with 1903s, a little more familiar in that respect. In the elevation is done with this screw and then slid into place and tightened down. And windage is done with this side screw, which slides your base plate, your back and forth here. So there we have it. Two fun examples and one expensive way to get into a Krag if you desire one, which I would highly recommend. It's what became a very popular hunting round, the 30-40, 30 caliber with 40 grains of smokeless powder. Still held on to the old tradition of, say, like a 45-70, 45 caliber with 70 grains, but however that was black powder. So the designation stayed, but the powder changed on this rifle. Very popular hunting round, as I said. That's a rimmed cartridge, and that's led to the popularity of the rifles being cut down into the carbine version. So anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching. If you see one of these carbines, do not overpay for it until you know it's an authentic carbine. Sometimes they can run into the many thousands of dollars, $2,000 to $3,000 perhaps on the carbines, but $200 to $300 for one that you know that is not authentic like this one. The rifles right now are running anywhere, hovering right around $1,000, as most of the American firearms are. Some of them are jumping drastically right now, like the M1 carbines are jumping up into the $12, $13 plus $100 range at times, for a good example. They can be had cheaper. This one I got lucky on an auction some time ago and found it for considerably less than that. But keep your eye open. That's a good way to shop for them, is on auction. So thanks for doing my coming along with my garage review. We'll get back to some more interesting antiques coming up. Several Mausers and a whole series on Gras rifles that I've managed to collect over the past 10 years or so. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.